Okay, these are the test corrections for our last test on TEK A3B and A2C, which is basically about slope, rate of change, and then of course using the slope and the y-intercept to write an equation. So this first part is all about finding rate of change or slope from a table, graph, or 2 points. And you're going to see in TEK A3B a lot of called rate of change instead of slope. All right, so savings account balance can be modeled by the graph of linear functions shown on the grid. What is the rate of change of the balance with respect to the number of deposits? Okay, so rate of change is going to be change in y over change in x, like slope. Oops. So rate of change, I'm just going to call it slope. Change in y over change in x. So there's a couple of ways you can do this. If you want to count on the grid, I do kind of a bigger triangle so that I can see what's going on. The problem with just counting, like rise over run or vertical change over horizontal change, is that this does not go by ones. We're going by 50s. So that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4 50s, which is 200. And then this goes 2, so plus 200 over 2. So there's that way. The other thing you can do is pull points off of your graph. So 0, 50, and then 1, 150. So you see this changes plus 100, this changes plus 1. Okay, so either way you do it, 100 over 1, or if you count it on the graph and you got 200 over 2, it's still going to give you A for your answer, $100 for every deposit. All right, number 2. The graph models the linear relationship between the temperature of Earth's atmosphere and the altitude above sea level. Which of these best represents the rate of change of the temperature with respect to altitude? So because it says, I didn't say this in the other one, temperature with respect to altitude, you know you're comparing the temperature to the altitude. So if you forget that slope is the change in y over the change in x, because sometimes people do that upside down, they do change in x over change in y, that's a good clue to help you remember. So I know my slope is negative, and of course all my answer choices are negative, so that's not going to help me eliminate anything. So what I need to do is find 2 points that are on like the corner, so they're easy to read. Let's see, maybe this point. And I don't, yeah, this one's kind of close. So that tells me my answer might not be exact. I might have to pick like the closest one. So let's see my points, and I'll just do a table. Most of you do it in a table. So 110 and 7, negative 30, right? About. All right, so from 10 to negative 30, that's minus 40. And from 1 to 7 is plus 6. So my rate of change is negative 40 over 6. And so if I divide that, I know 6 goes into 40. About 6 times will give me 36. So I guess I'm going with this one. I don't have a calculator real handy. So let me see. Negative 40 divided by 6 is negative 6. And then I'll have 4 left over. So it's negative 6 2/3, which is about negative 6.6 repeating. So A is the closest one. Okay, and that's because the points aren't, they look to be a little bit off of those corners, so you just got to get close and just realizing you might not get the exact answer. Okay, number 3, what is the slope of the line that passes through the points 26, 7, and negative 39, 12? Okay, so you can either use the slope formula for this, or you can put these points in a table if you want. So 26, 7, negative 39, and 12. Or you could use the slope formula. So I subtract my y's, and I subtract the x's in the same order. So negative 39 minus 26. I could put this whole thing in the calculator. Control divide, put the whole thing in there, hit enter. It's going to give me a fraction unless you do control enter. Then you get a decimal. Okay, so 12 minus 7 is 5. And negative 39 minus 26 is 65. Negative. And 5 goes into 65 13 times. So negative 5/13 is your answer. Oh, no, not, yeah. So it's negative 1/16. Thought I made a mistake on the answer key. There we go. Okay, so negative 1/13. So C would be the correct answer there. Okay, let's go to number 4. The table shows a linear relationship between the balance of a student's savings account and the number of weeks he has been saving. Based on the table, what was the rate of change of the balance of the student's savings account in dollars and cents per week? And then we had to grid this one in. Okay, so remember this is X and that's Y. So from 32 to 39, that's $7. And that's 1, so $7. Now this griddable is different from what you're used to in Math 8, and I kind of don't really talk about that. You have, if you have a decimal answer, you can put it anywhere because you get to fill in the decimal point, okay? But just to make it easy, I'm going to put it over here and then fill in the 7, okay? But you could literally put this anywhere. For example, if you wanted to put it here, I don't know why you would, but if you would want to put it like right here, that's fine, but then you need to fill in that decimal point and then 0, 0, 0. Okay, so either way. Okay, so just know that in algebra you don't have to worry about where you're putting that number because in Math 8 the decimal point's there and sometimes people put it behind the decimal when it shouldn't be. You won't have to worry about that in algebra because you place the decimal point wherever you need it. Okay. All right, and then number 5, the table represents some points on a graph of some linear function. What is the rate of change? I think I should have said 4y with respect to x for this function. Okay, so change in y, minus 9, change in x, plus 2b. Okay, change in y. That's the only issue here is remembering it's y over x. Change in y over change in x, not the other way around. Okay, now we're at the second part. This part really just asks you to take what you just did, finding slope, adding the y-intercept to it, and then writing the equation. Okay, so these were equations you would have written last year when you did the 8th grade TEK that deals with slope-intercept form, except for like number 6 you wouldn't have done because you don't have to find slope between 2 points in the 8th grade. Okay, so it's kind of review with, like, there's a lot more decimals and negatives, I think, on the algebra side of it than there was on the Math 8 side. Okay, so you just have to pay attention, use your calculator, and then those integers shouldn't be issues for you. All right, so we need the equation of the line in slope-intercept form of the line that passes through these points. So we need slope, and we need the y-intercept. And unfortunately, they did not give us the y-intercept as one of these points. So the first thing we're going to do is find slope. Again, you can use the formula. You could put the points in a table, which is what I'm going to do because it seems to be what most people do. So between 2 and 6, that's plus 4. Between negative 4 and 12, that's plus 8. So it looks like I did something wrong. Let's see, negative 4 and 2, 12 and 6. 2 plus 4 is 6. Negative 4 plus 8 is not right. Okay, there we go. And the way I kind of think about this is negative 4 to 0 takes me 4 units, and then to get from 0 to 12 is another 12. So this is 16, not 4. If you do this in a calculator and you do, subtract the x's, subtract your y's in the same order, and hit enter, it would tell you the answer, right away. So I have 4/16, which is 1/4, which is 0.25. So not A and not C. So now I just have to figure out what my y-intercept is. So I'm going to do it using the formula, the slope-intercept form. I'm going to write over here. But what you could do, if you don't follow all the manipulation that's going through here, what you could do is get a piece of graph paper, because you get that on STAR. You could graph -4.2 and 12.6, draw your line, and see if you hit negative something, 4 point something, or +3. And that should be, those are far enough apart, that should be pretty obvious if you want to graph it, okay? But I'm going to do it algebraically, because, you know, that's what I do. So I'm going to use this formula. I'm going to use my point. Let's see. Hang on. What point do I want to use? I'm going to use 12.6 because both those numbers are positive. So I try to use positive. Sorry. If I can. So 12.6 is my point. And I already know my slope is 1/4 or 0.25, whichever you want to use. So I already know this is 1/4. I'm just going to keep it a fraction. X, sorry. I know my X is 12, X and Y, right? I don't know B, that's kind of what I'm looking for. But I do know that my Y is 6. Okay, so now I'm just going to clean this up. 1/4 of 12 is 3. And then subtract 3 from both sides, and I see that my y-intercept is 3, which makes my answer, oh, that writing didn't move, sorry, which makes my answer letter D. Okay? Alrighty. Okay, number 7. The table represents some points on the graph of a linear function, and now we need to figure out what the function is. So, just like we did with the other table, we're going to figure out the slope, but then we need to figure out the y-intercept. Remember, that's where x equals 0, not y. So I think some people saw this and thought that was the y-intercept. That's not true. That's something else. We're going to learn about that next week. It is something specific. All right, so to find slope, change in y is -12. Change in x is -4. +4. Sorry, +4. So my slope is change in y over change in x. So that's going to be -3. Oh. I think I was supposed to type a -3 in front of D, because now it's pretty obvious that it has to be B. Oops, I really think there's supposed to be a -3 there. Okay, so why is it, other than that's the only one with the right slope? Well, the y-intercept, you need to go back to when x is 0. So where would x be 0? Right in here, right? In between -1 and 2. So my y-intercept is in between here. And that's where -10.5 is. Okay, see this -3.5 is from this point here, but that's not your y-intercept. So if you were going to find it, one of the things you could do is expand your table out, -1, and then I'd have 0, 1, and then 2. So here's your -16.5, here's your -7.5, and you just found out your slope is -3, so every time x goes up 1, y goes down by -3, and there's your -10.5. Okay, so if you stretch your table out, if x is 0 in between 2 points, stretch your table out a little bit, and then your slope is like your unit rate. It's what it's going by. Every time x goes up by 1, that's this right here is what the y is changing by, going up or down, whatever. Okay, so that's how you can use it to figure out your y-intercept. Okay, now I will say, if you're doing a retest, it's not going to be multiple choice. So then you're gonna have to come up with negative 10.5. There won't be multiple choice answers to kind of, well, I know it has to be between negative 7.5 and negative 16.5. That is the benefit of a multiple choice test, but your retest is not going to be multiple choice. So make sure you know how to find that y-intercept using the formula or stretching out your table. All right, so the graph of a linear function is shown on the grid. Which equation is best represented by this graph? So I was helping someone with this in tutoring for test corrections, and they said this is how I start. I see my y-intercept as -3. So I already know b equals -3. So I already know it can't be b or c, okay? Now, is the slope 7/5 or 5/7? Well, from your, make this bigger so you can see. Let's check out, which one? What's A? Let's check out 7/5 first. So if M is 7/5, that means from the y-intercept, I would be going up 7 to the right 5, just like the zombie graphing thing we did. So up 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7/5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I am not on the line, so that's not right. So let me see, it should be 5/7 then. Let's see if that works. From the y-intercept, I'm going to count up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I am on the line. That is my slope. Okay? So the other way you could do this is pull points off the line, although it looks like 4 zeros a point, but that's not going to work out, but it'll get you close enough. So that's the other way to do it because, you know, like I said, it's not going to be multiple choice. So when you are trying to find the equation of this line, when you don't have multiple choice, you need to find 2 points and either make a table of them, you know, to find change in y over change in x, or count the vertical change and compare it to the horizontal change. Just remember, if you go the other way, like if you're vertical, if you're going this way, vertical change, this would be negative. And this horizontal change then would also be negative because you're going in the negative direction. Okay, so up and right are positive directions, down and left are both negative directions. Okay, all right, so at any rate, that makes this answer D.